welcome, Kurt, and happy World Vape Day.
Hello, Lisa, and thank you very much. Yes, happy World Vape Day to you too.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. Let's start talking a little bit about the situation in South Africa, because last time you were on our podcast, we discussed that South African government proposed the tax on vaping. So could you tell our listeners what this tax was all about, and maybe if there have been any further developments ever since?
Well, yes. I mean, South Africa is currently facing two hurdles. The one that's been on the table since 2018, May 2018, was the proposed regulation of vaping products with the new the new Tobacco Act. And effectively what they want to do is lump tobacco and vaping into the same regulations, pretty much meeting the same restrictions and prohibitions around it. And then for some time now, since 2019, there was a suggestion of placing an excise on vaping products in South Africa. On December the 15th of 2021, the National Treasury released a proposal document to look at taxing these products. And at that stage, they had suggested a hybrid system where we would be taxing the volume of the content as well as the weight of the nicotine. So effectively, a tax on the moles as well as the tax on the milligram strength of that product. Subsequently, the Treasury has relooked at this and decided to explore volume base purely and exclude the nicotine strength. A couple of weeks ago, we had our first workshop with Treasury, where stakeholders in the industry, as well as a number of other stakeholders related to economics as well as to health, participated in a 4-hour workshop where we had raised a number of issues relating to this. So we are waiting for further movement on this. It's our understanding that Treasury will then formulate a proper document that will be presented to our cabinet, and that will give us another opportunity to comment on that new document that will be released.
Thank you very much, Kurt. You've mentioned that you are involved in this process, and I also wanted to ask you about the activities of Vaping Saved My Life, because you have recently launched many very interesting activities and campaigns that can serve as a very good example to other vaping activists. So could you tell us a little bit about Vaping Saved My Life has been up to?
Yeah, I think this year started off with quite a bang. We had a huge campaign that we launched, which looked at, first of all, addressing some of the misconceptions and misinformation around vaping via Twitter. We also then did a lot of billboards as well as press releases around it. The main gist of the campaign was what we called a social experiment, where we took a handful of smokers that were wanting to quit and provided them with appropriate products based on a review of their smoking habits and history, and asked them to participate in a 90-day challenge with vaping, which has been really, really successful. And to add on to that, we've also had a petition that would look at requesting that the government re-look at the current legislation or regulation around vaping and try remove it from the existing proposal and look at it as part of a solution rather than the problem itself. The social experiment is now wound down, and we're happy to announce that 7 of the 8 individuals that participated in it had successfully quit smoking through e-cigarettes.
This is so impressive. Congratulations on such a successful campaign. It's very inspiring. Well, thank you. And I just want to ask you the last question, actually, and end on more or less an optimistic note, and ask you if what makes you feel hopeful about the future of vaping, and maybe also what World Vape Day means to you.
I'll start off with World Vape Day, what it means to me. It means a lot. This has been a crusade of mine for the last 5 years when I started Vaping Saved My Life. And it's about providing accurate and appropriate information to smokers out there that are still sitting on the fence wanting to quit. They know deep down that what they're doing when they smoke is harmful to themselves as well as to people around them. And World Vape Day provides us with that opportunity to share the information and share some of the positive insights and knowledge around vaping. We know that it's not 100% safe, but when compared to combustible cigarettes, it is significantly less harmful. And I think a lot of smokers out there that wanting to quit have literally lost the point based on the amount of misinformation that has been spread. I think what, from a positive side, is we've seen that there's a lot more attention and a lot more a better understanding as to what vaping is from a number of sectors in the world, particularly around health, where they acknowledge that this possibly could be added to the fight against smoking. I think unfortunately for some time now that we've spent too much time focusing on tobacco industry and not around smoking. And that's where Vaping Saved My Life has poured a lot of its focus in. It's about smoking, and it's about helping people quit smoking and quit combustibles. And it's not about the tobacco industry or the war against nicotine or so forth and so on. So I think a lot of the experts out there, a lot of the old tobacco control community are now starting to see that there is a potential to add to the number of other strategies out there to help people quit smoking. Because at the end of the day, that is the goal. The goal is to help people quit smoking and live a healthier and better life. So that's where the positive I'm seeing.
Thank you, Kurt. And thank you for everything that you do with Vaping Saved My Life. It's always a pleasure to have you on an interview. And happy World Vape Day.
So yes, thank you very much. And yes, have a happy World Vape Day.
Cristiano, since we already mentioned that Portugal has the highest tax on vaping in the EU, let's discuss this topic. And I would like to start by asking you to describe what this tax is all about and how do you think it affects vapers in Portugal?
Okay, so in the first place, there is the need to understand that we are not here only talking about one single excise tax, like many other countries all over the EU have, but we are talking about double taxation. I mean, we have the highest excise tax in Europe over the nicotine products, but we also are requested to pay for the VAT over the products. So over the excise tax, you will be considering also the VAT. This creates enormous disadvantage for the Portuguese vapers, because when we look at the comparison point between us Portuguese and other European citizens, we realize that the price that our nicotine products can reach, it's pretty much insane. Being specific, we are here talking about an excise tax of 32 cents per mil in practice since 2020, and it's expected to increase now in the 2022.
Thank you very much, Cristiano. And I also want to talk about EU scale regulations as well, because we know that vaping can save millions of lives, and flavors play a crucial role in helping smokers to quit. However, we have seen that there are many policymakers and anti-vaping voices, especially in the EU, that are leaning towards the flavor bans more and more. And first of all, I want to ask you, what do you think about flavor bans and what are going to be the implications of the flavor bans generally? And if it's likely or there is a chance that the flavor bans will be introduced in Portugal too?
I don't think that we will be leading the decision about banning the flavors. What I do assume is that if the EU, as you said, will implement some kind of direction towards the banning of flavors, we will follow. It's kind of a typical thing in Portugal. I mean, banning flavors, it's banning one of the most interesting things in vaping. I mean, I was a smoker for roughly 15 or more years. I can't even remember because I've been vaping for 12 now. And I tried everything to get rid of the tobacco, of the smoking. I never achieved my goal until the moment I realized vaping is an option, or was an option. And to be honest, one of the things that led me to being able to quit smoking was precisely the flavor. Okay, it's completely different from when I was to smoke. And after a short period of time, I would say like 1 month, I tried a cigarette again, and the taste, precisely, the flavor from the cigarette was the main thing that made me realize that I will never go back to cigarettes again. Okay, so flavors are indeed important. And well, this improved taste that we can get from vaping, it's one of the key points of the success of vaping and one of the key points for the harm reduction. So it makes no sense to me to ban flavors. I don't see the problem of flavors in the same way that people want us to understand that indeed it's a problem. It's not. However, here I must make some kind of distinction between Portugal and other markets or other countries. And why? Because of this special tax that we have, we are not used to buy our products with nicotine in a reasonable manner. Because of this tax that we have, we are forced to choose the short fields and to rely a lot on do-it-yourself. So this means that even if the EU will ban flavors from nicotine products or ready liquids with nicotine, it won't affect that much the Portuguese vaping customers. Why? Because we are not used to that. So we will keep relying on buying those flavors separately as a raw product and mix them directly with the bases and whatsoever. Or even buy the short fills if that won't be part of the new regulation as well. I am worried. I am really worried about the current situation in the vaping markets.
And that actually brings me very well to my next question, because I would rather also end on an optimistic note and also hear from you, what is APORVAP doing at the moment, and what are your plans in support of vaping, and how can consumers support groups like you?
I'm happy to tell you that we are already granted to be received by the Portuguese Parliament again in a near future. There is no date yet because, as I told you, the government just took place 1 month ago, and now we are again debating the state budget, and this is the point where we will be having our participation and make sure that people will listen to us and understand why are we fighting against this specific and insanely high excise tax that we have in Portugal. So this is our first goal. Our second goal will be to reinforce the connection between us, APORVAP, and the different parties in Portugal. And we'll making different kind of meetings with every single one to make sure that all of them will be able to understand our position and to commit with our goals. We need, one of the reasons for all of this inconsistency in the Portuguese market, it's precisely the lack of commitment that we have from our scientists and our doctors. This is one of the goals from APORVAP. We already established connections with different kind of entities, and we'll be trying to implement a conference, an international conference in Portugal, where we will be granting the participation of foreigner scientists and doctors. And still, we have our daily fights that we'll keep pushing them, and we'll keep supporting our associates.
And generally the fight that you're in, obviously APORVAP supports you. in your fight in Portugal, and I hope our joint efforts will bring better policies, not only in Portugal and the EU, but globally. And I would like to thank you very much, Cristiano, for being here with us
my
today.
pleasure.
And
It
it's
was my
always a pleasure.
You too. Thank you so much for the invitation, and let's keep fighting together, because this is a fight that deserves to be stronger every day.
Indeed, let's keep a fight and let's vape on.
Thank you. Bye, Lisa.
Danny, thank you very much for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks, WDA, for inviting me to have this interview. It's my honor to be here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Let's start by talking about the vaping, about the regulatory environment around vaping in Taiwan, because we know that in 2019, importing e-cigarettes was already made illegal in Taiwan, but now vaping might even face more restrictions, because in January 2022, the full-scale vape ban was proposed by Taiwan cabinet, and it is now progressing at the very moment. So I want to ask you, what are the restrictions generally, if you could describe the general regulatory background in Taiwan, and what changes are expected, and obviously what would it mean for vapers then if the full-scale ban will be enforced?
Okay, thanks, Lisa. So before this new law amendment proposed on 2022 January. So if this bill passed, basically the old vaping product will be banned. It's a totally banned. So right now they decide, okay, if we pass the new law amendment on January, which will be a totally ban from importation, sales, display, advertisement, and even use. Everything in vaping is illegal if the new law passed. So that's the biggest problem, because right now we have about 1 million users in Taiwan already. So if the law passed, the vaping was banned, the consumer, this user will go to find the vaping product in black markets, or some of them will go back to smoking, or other people will change to use the heat-not-burn products. But yeah, because in this law, the heat-not-burn product will be legalized. So afterward will be cigarette is legal and the heat-not-burn is legal. Only vaping will be banned. So that's the situation if our law amendment pass what happened.
Well, yeah, that's definitely will be very unfortunate for vapers. And I want to ask you, since you're in the middle of elections and you're very active in that sense, so how is it progressing at the moment? And if you win the elections, then what would it mean for vaping? What is your expectation from the elections?
For the election, if I win the election, that will be a milestone for vaping around the world, I think, because as I know, no one vaping advocate joined the election, and other people will know this way it works, because the reason I will start join the election is because it's 2019. Yeah, 2019. I tried everything I can to advocate, but basically my information was blocked. So I cannot to let more people know about vaping. So I do the research online to find out, okay, there's a advocating method called election. So I check other topic people. They also do the same thing. They maybe have their own issue they want to promote. Basically, my purpose is the same. I want to make more people know about vaping and know about me, so they can maybe search my name, so they will see my information on the internet. So if I win, I think that would be a really milestone and advocate for vaping. Yeah.
We wish best of luck with that. It's definitely very inspiring what you do with elections. You have mentioned how misinformed people may be about vaping and how many misconceptions there are about vaping. So I want to ask you about Vape Taiwan, because you're a founder of Vape Taiwan as an informational platform about vaping. And
basically, because I've joined the international organization like WVA or other organizations, so I will collect the information worldwide. So mainly, I do the job is to translate the English document or news into Mandarin, so to make more people know about what's going on the internet. Because in Taiwan mainstream media, basically they won't say a word about what's happening. So before, I remember it's only 30% or 20-something percent people support vaping. But right now we have about 40% people support vaping.
Thank you so much, Danny. It's been a pleasure having you, and we wish you best of luck with your campaign and obviously with Vape Taiwan too. We'll be seeing you in the next WVA events. Happy World Vape Day and Vape On.
Thank you. Vape On. Happy World Vape Day.
So let's start by talking a little bit about the situation in the Philippines. We know that the sale and manufacture of e-cigarettes and heated tobacco products are regulated, and also it's accompanied by the flavor ban for the vaping products. So could you please describe on what is the regulatory environment around vaping in the Philippines, and what are the challenges that vapers face today in the Philippines?
Well, there's quite a confusion between two laws. No, the first law is the RA, or Republic Act 11467. The intention of that law is not to regulate vaping. The intention of which is to increase the excise tax, to determine the excise tax that they will levy on per ml basis for the juices. So, according to that law, a per ml would cost around 80 cents in excise tax. So if a product like this contains 30 ml, it would be around $24 that will go to the government in advance. So that's what's incorporated in the law, which will take effect on March 25th. Oh, on May 25th, I'm sorry. But the question is, there is a line or a provision that says there is a tobacco flavor ban, that the only allowed products would be tobacco or menthol flavoring. So other flavors are excluded in that law. Also, the minimum age by which a store can sell to is 21, which is of course violative of our constitution, because 18 is the legal age by which 18 years old are already equipped and considered a legal age in our country. So there's quite a confusion there, no? Although that will take effect on May 25th, and most retailers, the consumers also are already aware how it's going to go. But on the other hand, there is a law that has passed the Senate but has not been signed into a full law. It still awaits the signature of the president. That law pertains specifically to the manufacture, the importation, the distribution, the sale, and of course, the use of vape and heated tobacco products. Meaning, this vape law has not been ratified yet, has not been signed into law by the president. But that is a more specific and applies directly to the law. And that vape bill, which we are awaiting for its passing, does not constitute any tobacco does not constitute any flavor bans at all. See, because according to the bill, they were able to find out after a long series of deliberation that we cannot eliminate the flavors in vape juices because that would only constitute a derailment or constitute a discouragement for smokers to switch. So that's already a given package. But for now, since there is an effective law that says there's a tobacco flavor ban, we will respect that at the moment until the outcome of the vape bill that we're expecting to be signed by the president or vetoed until June 30th. So that's how things are going at the moment.
Thank you so much, Anton. And I believe that in this situation, the voice and engagement of local vaping associations is crucial. And that's what brings me to another question. Could you tell our listener what has the campaigning experience with NCUP been like? What have you been up to?
Well, the campaigning experience is very tough because we are opposed. We are being opposed by powerful figures, particularly from the Department of Health and their colleagues and their friends in the Senate and the Congress. So it was a uphill battle when the vape bill is being drafted and passed into a law and passed into a bill. And at the moment, the president is quite adamant and unsympathetic to the situation, especially to how smokers approaches cessation attempts. So this is quite worrying us, and we are really very hopeful that the president will sign and support what is being drafted in the vape bill, because we believe that the vape bill is a potential or can be considered also as a healthcare strategy. But our opponents do not see it that way. That's a problem.
But to end on an optimistic note, and you also mentioned that it makes you hopeful. So could you please elaborate maybe on that? So what recent developments make you optimistic about the future of vaping in the Philippines?
Yes, insofar as our campaign attempts or our campaign efforts are going, it's really, as I mentioned, it's really a uphill battle, and everything is everyone of us is very apprehensive over the outcome of the vape bill. On the good note, as you mentioned, we're really very hopeful, and that's proving to be a very good note. And one noticeable positive outcome that we are observing is that the people are beginning to become aware of that the vaping is a right solution. Before, it used to be a product that caters to millennials, to the young marketing group, but right now it also caters, or it's really capturing the attention of elderly people like me, who used to smoke a lot and who decided to refrain from smoking and try vaping. So that's a good positive note. I hope that the government will support it and will not impose stricter measures, so that only that we need to be encouraged to try vaping instead of discouraging it.
Thank you, Anton, for your time, and happy World Vape Day. And thank you again for the interview.
World Vape Day.
Welcome, Joel, and thank you for joining Happy World Vape Day.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Let's start by talking a little bit about the situation in Uganda. Under Tobacco Control Act, the manufacture, importation, sale, and distribution of electronic nicotine delivery systems is prohibited. It's not illegal to use ends, but it's illegal to bring them into the country. So, Joel, could you please describe what are the challenges that vapers face in Uganda?
Okay, in Uganda, the challenges, the challenges that vapers face in our country is, for starters, they experience a lot of stigma because they are categorized as smokers either way. In our country, there's a lot of misinformation that is propagated by the tobacco control faction, and it renders vapors in on the same list as smokers. Now this becomes a problem because on one end, somebody is struggling to fight the vice, fight the use of trying to quit the habit, and on the other end, they're not getting the proper support, more moral support from government and other entities. So that becomes quite a problem. So the first one is stigma. The next is there's just not enough interventions to help vapors support the switch, or even so the practice, and that's a bit of a problem. The policies in place are not very favorable. Just like you quoted, the Tobacco Act of 2015 is an overall impediment to the progress of the work.
Thank you, Joel. And that's why it's so important that groups like THR Uganda exist. And I know that you have been fighting a lot of misinformation on vaping. So could you please let our listeners know what has campaigning with THR Uganda been like so far?
Oh, challenging. It's been a bit of a challenge, but in this sense, let me tell you why. It's challenging because in this country, like you said, the ban, the law in itself makes it difficult to penetrate in various places, because in our country, anything that is done that is against an existent law is rendered rebellion. You would be rendered it's actually everything is politically instigated. So you'd find that so in our case, our advocacy runs against an existent law, and countering that law means you are fighting government, and that's perceived to be treasonous.
I see. Thank you, Joel. That must be very challenging indeed, and it's inspiring that THR Uganda is still fighting in support of vaping. And just to end on a positive note, I would like to ask you if there are any vaping developments that make you feel make you hopeful about the future of vaping.
Yes, but what makes me positive about the future for vaping and generally safer nicotine alternatives is the fact that there is a new breed of policymakers, a new breed of legislators who are asking questions who are questioning the existing law, who are questioning the the efficiency of the law itself, because the law, though it was enacted a while back, right from 2015, the most popular quit aids are THR based. And in this case, this is our drive. And so I am positive for the future, because if we get more like-minded people, like the ones we are interacting with lately, then we're likely to see several policy changes, or rather several policy interventions that are going to be pro-THR strategies. And vaping will become quickly popular in this country. It is popular amongst the young elitist groups. The only problem is they get access to products that are, like I said, that are not regulated, and that can be a problem. So we're just hoping to work with the right team, the right minds, to have the right effects in place, all in good time.
Thank you very much, Joel. I wish you best of luck with the campaigns of THR Uganda. We at World Vapers Alliance highly support your group, and I hope your activities will bring a better future for vapers in Uganda, and we can keep celebrating harm reduction. Thank you very much for being with us today, and happy World Vape Day again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. We are looking to more activities together in time to come.
Let us start with a discussion about the regulatory framework in Brazil. Vaping is banned in Brazil or partially banned in Brazil? And could you please elaborate on what sort of regulatory framework is there and what type of challenges do vapers experience in Brazil in such a strict regulatory environment?
Absolutely. So, as you said, Brazil has a partial ban on vaping. So we have sales, imports, and advertising banned in Brazil. However, it is not prohibited to have or use a vaping device. So, as you can imagine, we have a very big black market with products without any control, quality, or guarantee. This also brings a lot of a lack of information about vaping. Lots of people believe that it's 100% safe, which they are not. Of course, they are much less harmful than cigarettes, but not without risks. At the same time, there is an anti-vaping campaign in Brazil made by ideological groups that spread misinformation saying that vaping is as harmful or even more harmful than cigarettes. So this misinformation takes people away from vaping who could use it to quit smoking. As a vapor in Brazil, it is common to be approached by someone who comes to tell me that what I'm doing is worse than smoking. People are also pressured by family and friends who watch sensational articles telling lies about vaping. Despite all this, it's very easy to buy an electronic cigarette in Brazil. We can find products everywhere at gas stations, nightclubs, tobacco shops, markets, small stores. And I consider that something bad because it gives access to minors and non-smokers who do not know what they are buying or consuming. So I think we have to have a regulation in Brazil that allows adult smokers to have easy access to those products. At the same time, alerts people who are especially minors and non-smokers that are not a healthy product, but it's a less harmful alternative to smoking.
Thank you, Hazard. And I know that you, with your organizations, you're putting a lot of effort into raising awareness, providing correct information, and improving the situation overall. So could you tell us a little bit what has the campaigning experience been like with Vapor Aqui and Direta?
Absolutely. First, I have to say that I follow the World Vapers Alliance campaigns, and I must compliment the creativity behind the ideas. We try our best to do what's possible here in Brazil within this environment of prohibition. As a president of Direta, the first and still the only association of tobacco harm reduction in Brazil, we organize events with more technical and scientific debates, initiatives like webinars and online debates with health professionals. At the same time, as a creator of vaporaqui.net, I act more like an activist. So I organize events like the march we have in Curitiba, Paraná, where I live. 2 months ago, we had a lot of people with posters saying words asking for Anvisa, which is our regulatory agency, to allow the sales of vaping products in Brazil. We also have a petition right now with over 5,500 signatures, and we are asking the same thing. It is on change.org. And if it's possible, please help us out with that because we need it. We also are participating in the public consultation organized by Anvisa that is discussing the regulation of sales of vaping products in Brazil. We have the deadline until we are already past the deadline because it was on 11th of May, but we hope that these efforts can bring some results. The work is hard. We're fighting big organizations with large investments behind them. They get coverage in the mainstream media, and it's kind of a battle between David and Goliath, but we continue it with our fight.
Thank you, Hazard. We saw the pictures from your rally. It was very impressive. So congratulations on such a great job.
Thank you.
And to end our short interview on an optimistic note, Could you tell our listeners if there are any recent developments that make you hopeful about the future of vaping? And maybe what does World Vape Day mean to you?
Of course. Well, I need to remember that Brazil's situation is difficult and complicated. But despite that, we had thousands of vapers concerned